welcome to another edition of Spartan Center here on LCAT. I'm Colin Casey, joined by Matt Rodalakis and Patrick Varhue. It is Friday, September 22nd, 2016, as we begin today with the top story of the Boston Red Sox closing in on a division title. Last night they got a big victory against the Baltimore Orioles. Final score was 5-1. Great outing from Clay Buchholz. Gave up a run on 3 hits through 7 innings. You also had Andrew Benintendi with a huge 3-run home run just a couple days after returning from that bad knee injury he had. Guys, last night, what do you think the game proved for the Red Sox? Matt, we'll start with you.
I think it was a huge game in terms of momentum. I mean, they keep the win streak rolling. They came from behind, they got a break, and then they capitalized on it with Benintendi's 3-run homer, and the bullpen stayed lights out. You got a great outing from Buchholz, and it was pretty much everything you could want in a win.
I think it was almost division clinching. I don't see how the team's 5 games back could really come back and win the division. I think even if they go 500 the rest of the way, unless a team goes on an incredible run, I think the Red Sox are going to win the division.
And also, as we approach the playoffs, you think, obviously, that the Red Sox will be playing in a 5-game series at least in the playoffs. You're thinking about who your starting pitchers are. Their number one's obviously probably going to be Rick Porcello with 21 wins this year. Then the guy who was supposed to be their ace, David Price, who had his struggles but has really bounced back. He's projected to be the number 2. Who's your number 3?
It's got to be Eduardo Rodriguez for me. Just been lights out down the stretch. Ever since they called him back up, he came back from injury. He's been everything they wanted, and I think he's going to be a great number 3 pitcher.
Pat, how about you?
I agree. I don't know how you could start Clay Buchholz with how shaky he's been. Stephen Wright probably going to be on the disabled list. Really, his injury right now, it's not known where he's going to be. So I think Rodriguez is really the only guy you can go with. I think he's a solid number 3 guy for a playoff rotation, and I think the Sox are going to shape well pitching-wise, especially with their dominant bullpen.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both of you guys. I got to go with Eduardo Rodriguez. But I think it's a great thing that we're actually having a debate over this. That means you got a solid number 4 guy. Clay Buchholz, very inconsistent, but hey, he's been pitching pretty well in the last couple of months. So I would be confident with him in Game 4 if you had to have it. If say you were up like 3-0 in an ALCS game or something like that, I would be okay with starting Clay Buchholz in Game 4. And now let's finish up the Red Sox here with who is your Red Sox MVP for the 2016 season, Matt?
David Ortiz. I mean, it's the last year, and he's probably been the most consistent player they've had the whole season. I mean, he slumped for a little bit, middle towards the end of the season, but when other guys like Xander and JBJ have had rough stretches, the one constant has always been David's production.
Pat, how about you?
I completely agree. I think Mookie Betts is obviously in competition to be the AL MVP, but I think it's going to go to David. Or I think the Red Sox MVP is David Ortiz. I just don't know how you can give a guy who's having one of the best farewell seasons out of anyone in Major League history, give the Red Sox MVP to anyone else.
Yeah, this being the most home runs ever hit by someone in their final season. Ortiz with now 36, I believe, after his homer a couple nights ago. I'll go with Ortiz as well. However, second, third, and fourth are pretty close behind. If you look at Dustin Pedroia, Rick Porcello, and Mookie Betts, all having great seasons. Now we move on to the New England Patriots. They play tonight at Gillette Stadium. Their quarterback now, Jacoby Brissett, after Tom Brady being suspended 4 games and Jimmy Garoppolo with a shoulder injury last week. Guys, Jacoby Brissett, first career start. How do you guys think he'll do?
I'm not expecting anything special out of him. I think it's going to be very, very vanilla game plan, very plain, nothing special. And I think he'll do okay, but I don't expect to see him put up any earth-shattering numbers.
I think it's going to be a total blowout, goes the Texans' way. Gronk might not even play. They barely sweep by the Dolphins as they came back last week. Brissett looked terrible, honestly. I think the Texans are going to get the win. Osweiler can push the Texans ahead, especially with the new running game from Lamar Miller.
Pat, I would agree with you in the blowout aspect, only if their coach was not Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, I feel like you could give him any quarterback in the league, and his coaching ideas and just his game plan always works out in the end somehow, some way. So even if you give him a terrible quarterback, he'll find a way to beat you. It's incredible the way he has programmed the Patriots throughout his entire 15-year career. Now, your guys' prediction on this game: who wins and what's the score?
I'm going to give this one to the Texans for, I think, pretty obvious reasons. I mean, Patriots on their 3rd-string quarterback. Texans look pretty good. I think they won last week, looking pretty solid. I'll say 21-10.
Okay.
I'm going 35-3. I think it's going to be a complete blowout. I do not see Jacoby Brissett being able to handle J.J. Watt coming at him. I think it's going to be a lot of sacks. Julian Edelman might be the quarterback by the end of the game if Jacoby Brissett just can't handle it. I don't see Bill Belichick messing around. I see him being like, okay, Brissett, if you're not good, we're going Edelman. Edelman's not going to be good. I don't see it going.
Wow.
You heard it here first, folks. They're going to put Julian Edelman in at quarterback.
Wide receiver, former quarterback at Kent State. I'm actually going to go with the Patriots on this one, just because they're 2-0. Had a very good first half against your Miami Dolphins. Matt, the Dolphins put up with a different quarterback, with Garoppolo starting out, and then his injury kind of turned things around. However, I think Jacoby Brissett, obviously not proven, hasn't even started a game yet, but with the way LeGarrette Blount ran the ball last week, with Rob Gronkowski as your tight end, I feel like the Patriots can just roll over the Texans, even with the pass rush of Jadeveon Clowney and J.J. Watt. Final score on that one, I'm going to go 28-14. Yeah.
Interesting.
28-14 Pats in that one.
We'll see.
Okay, now we move on to other predictions here in the NFL. We've got 5 very important games this week for 10 different teams. We're going to start off with the Broncos at the Bengals. Matt, who do you got?
The Broncos are just on fire right now. The offense is working well under Trevor Siemian, and the defense is just lighting teams up. I think Broncos are the easy choice here.
I disagree. I think the Bengals are going to have to bounce back from a bad loss to the Steelers. I think Andy Dalton's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL. He's driven his team to the playoffs a couple seasons.
How many games does he win in the playoffs?
He hasn't won any games in the playoffs, but that doesn't mean he's not a good quarterback during the regular season. I think Andy Dalton's going to have a good game. I think A.J. Green's the top wide receiver, and I think Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard are going to have to get the running game really on track. I think the Bengals get a big win over the Broncos because I don't think Trevor Siemian's going to be the guy for a while.
I'm going to go with the Broncos in this one. I have the Cincinnati Bengals defense in fantasy. I actually traded him, or I got him from you in fantasy, I believe it was, Pat. But they really have underperformed this year, I thought. I thought the Bengals would come out. They're not a great defensive team, but I feel like they would be able to, stop teams and halt them. Granted, they've had a couple of tough games. They had Pittsburgh last week. But Trevor Siemian has been very solid through his first couple of games. You get a good game on the ground from C.J. Anderson. Demaryius Thomas, a very good wide receiver. I'm going to go with the Broncos on this one. But it's very possible that the Bengals could maybe sneak this one out. Next game, NFC East matchup. We've got the New York Giants hosting the Washington Redskins. Pat, we'll start with you on this one.
Well, I'm a Redskins fan. I'm a little biased, but I still think the Redskins win. Last week and the first week of the season, total disaster, dumpster fire of a start of a season. I think Kirk Cousins has been terrible. I think Josh Norman has just not covered the guys he's supposed to cover, but I think he's going to get back, cover Odell Beckham Jr., show up, play well. Rashad Breeland, he needs to wake up because he's just done nothing the first 2 seasons besides that interception week 1. I think the running game for the Redskins, if they can get anything going, Matt Jones had a nice rush last week. If they can get a little running game, I think they can just get past the Giants and get their first win of the season because I don't see the Giants going 3-0. I don't see the Redskins going 0-3 to start the season.
Matt?
If you would ask me before the season, I probably would have agreed with Pat. I don't see the Redskins starting 0-3 and the Giants starting 3-0, but the Giants' defense looks much improved from last year, and the Redskins haven't shown me anything to say that they are a legitimate contender this year, so I'm going to give this one to the Giants.
Yeah, me being a Giants fan, too. I guess, bias aside, I'm going to go with the Giants on this one, and my reasoning is, how about the 3 wide receivers for the Giants? Odell Beckham Jr., actually the least receiving, or was third on receiving yards for the Giants, behind Sterling Shepard, the rookie, with 118 receiving yards, and then Victor Cruz with 4 receptions and 94 yards, including that big one that sealed it for that field goal that would win the game for them against the Saints. Also, Giants defense looked really strong. Kirk Cousins, in my mind, is on the decline. I feel like he really hasn't played to his fullest potential as he did in the second half of last year, and I don't think he's getting any better. So I'm going to go with the Giants in this one.
Well, the thing is, the first 2 games of the season, the Redskins' rush defense has played teams with very good running backs. Last week they played the Cowboys with Elliott, and the first week they played the Steelers with Williams. So I don't think the Giants really have that number 1 running back, and so that's been the main fault in the Redskins is the rush defense, and I don't think Eli Manning is as good a quarterback as Ben Roethlisberger. He may be better than Dak Prescott, but there was a great rushing game to go along with
I understand that,
Cowboys.
But there's something that a lot of people are missing here. Is going into last week, since week 14 of last season, Rashad Jennings had the most rushing yards in the NFL throughout that span. I couldn't believe it either when I saw that. But the Giants, their run game is not that strong, but I feel like people underestimate it at times. We're going to go on to the next one with the Niners at the Seahawks. A lot of people think it's going to be a blowout for the Seahawks, but their offense has been non-existent the first couple games. Matt?
I'm still going Seahawks. Great defense. I think Russell Wilson will eventually find it. Thomas Rawls will get it going. Wilson will start hitting Doug Baldwin. They'll put some points on the board, and I think it's definitely going to be enough to beat the 49ers.
Pat, sorry.
There have been some injury concerns with Baldwin and Rawls and Wilson, but they're possibly the best defense in the NFL, along with a decent offense, even though obviously there's some hiccups, injuries, and Russell Wilson just not being at the top of his game, but the 49ers are just not a good team. I definitely think it's going to be a Seahawks win.
I think the 49ers are a lot better than a lot of people think. I feel like they are 1-1, but last week they played the Panthers, and they played them pretty tight through, I think it was the first 3 quarters, then a little bit into the fourth quarter, and then things just got blown open with Cam Newton being Cam Newton. But I'm going to go with the Seahawks on this one. I don't think Pete Carroll and the Seahawks will let themselves lose back-to-back games against teams that don't look like they're going to be contending for a division this year. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go with the Seahawks. I mean, it would be hard to see them going 1-2 to start this season. Steelers at the Eagles. Both these teams 2-0.
I think the Eagles are a good team, but like I said last week, for me the Steelers are the second best team in the AFC. They have a lethal offense. The defense is underrated in my eyes, and I think this is definitely going to be a Steelers win.
Pat?
I think the Steelers blow him out. Carson Wentz, he's a good quarterback, but does he really have the weapons to go along with him? No. Ben Roethlisberger has probably the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Could debate that.
Okay. I think Ben Roethlisberger has the best wide receiver in the NFL and Antonio Brown.
I'm not going to debate that.
I think Roethlisberger's going to go along to him a lot. It's going to be an absolute blowout. Steelers get a big win because the Eagles are just not that good.
You saw the Eagles, Carson Wentz playing very well against the Browns. Carson Wentz then playing very well against Bears, albeit he took a ton of hits in that game. But the Steelers, they're a lot different. The Steelers' defense is okay, nothing that it was like 5 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. However, you have guys like Ryan Shazier, guys up front that can really get to the quarterback, and with that reasoning, I think I'm going to have to go with the Steelers. Not even the fact that they have probably one of if not the best offenses in the league at this point in the season. And then the final game, we're going to go with the Panthers and the Vikings.
It's got to be the Panthers. The Vikings have surprised a lot of people with Sean Hill and Sam Bradford at quarterback, but I don't know if you can really keep that up against a great defense like the Panthers. I think the Panthers are a great team on both sides of the ball, and this should be an easy win.
Pat?
I think it's going to be a very close game, but I do think the Panthers are going to get out with a win. Kelvin Benjamin started awesome to the season as his bounce-back season. I think that Cam Newton is going to light it up, and I don't see the Vikings really winning this game, especially with Peterson injured. But I think they can compete because, shockingly enough, they're 2-0. And I think Sam Bradford has a good thing going on with Stephon Diggs, and I think it's going to be a close game that the Panthers just inch out.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Panthers, and I really do think, I don't think this game's going to be that close. And the reasoning behind that is no Teddy Bridgewater, no Adrian Peterson, and with Sean Hill or Sam Bradford on offense, the Vikings, yeah, they've looked okay, but you're going up against the Panthers defense, guys like Luke Kuechly, I'm trying to think of his name right now up front, Davis.
Thomas Davis.
I was thinking Vernon Davis, the tight end for the Redskins.
Same thing.
But yeah, Panthers defense just too good. Even though they lost Josh Norman, I still think they're one of the more elite defenses in the league. Shouldn't have any problem stopping the Vikings. I'm going with the Panthers in that one. Now we look at the rest of our picks, where we'll looking at some of the other picks that we don't really have time for here. In the Raiders at the Titans, Matt, you went with the Titans over the Raiders in this one. How come?
Titans have looked pretty strong to me. I think their offense is pretty good, and the Raiders' defense has been just horrendous so far, so I think that they should be able to pull that one out.
And then, Pat, also, you actually went with the Raiders in that one. Raiders 0-2. Their defense has really struggled so far. Do you think that's going to change this week?
Yes, because I think their defense is great with Khalil Mack, and then I think Derek Carr is going to light it up offensively, and Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree are going to be stars.
You think their defense is great?
Yeah, I do think their defense is
They
great.
just gave up over 500 yards of total offense to the Falcons.
That's okay. Matt Ryan had a great game. He does that sometimes. He's just not a good quarterback.
They've had back-to-back just pitiful weeks defensively. What have you seen that makes you think they could turn it around?
I've seen what they did last year, and Khalil Mack is a great leader to the defense.
He's a great player, yeah, but I just don't think all the pieces fit together just right yet. I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah, I think the retirement of Charles Woodson might have had something to do with not just the defensive talent, but also leadership in the locker room in that defense. We're going to move on now. We're going to head to local sports. East Long Meadow Spartans football team playing tomorrow at Minnechaug. They're 0-2, off to a bit of a rough start, but this is probably the last game of the season for them in which it's going to be a really tough test. Minnechaug, who they play this week, and then they had Central and Agawam the past couple of weeks. Three very tough organizations. What are your expectations this week for the Spartans against Minnechaug?
Well, Chaug's always just a great program. Every year they turn out good players, good teams. So, I mean, I'm not going to predict a win, but I think they should be able to keep it relatively close.
Yeah, they had a rough game last week against Central, but that was kind of anyone could have seen that one coming. Even with Mike Magpinto, it would still be tough to beat that team. Pat, your thoughts?
I agree. I don't think they can get a win. Maybe they'll make it close, though. Tristan Longmore, he's kind of had a tough first 2 weeks of the season, but I think he can get out, maybe show a good performance, and hopefully East Long Meadow will compete.
Yeah, there's been points last season where Tristan Longmore's had some really good stretches of football. Against Long Meadow, I believe it was, that very high-scoring game, which they came up just short. He looked really good in that game, threw a couple of deep balls. His accuracy was good. He just needs to start doing that some more this season. He's had some trouble with that with the loss of Riley Held and Mike Magpinto. So hopefully he'll adjust that. Final topic here today, the Spartans girls soccer team off to a great start. They're 2-1-1, and they are now ranked number 2 in Western Mass. They might be competing for a Western Mass champion title, I should say. They just tied Belchertown last week, who's ranked number 1. How do you guys feel about their chances of winning a Western Mass championship?
I don't think this should come as a surprise to anyone. I mean, they had a big graduating class last year. They lost a lot of talent, but they're like Minnechaug football, Central football. They're just always a quality program. They always turn out good teams, and I think they have as good a shot as anyone as winning the title.
I agree with exactly what he just said. I think they have a great shot at winning it all.
Yeah, they actually have a lot of injuries. I think they had like 3 or 4 people on their team with suffering knee injuries, and yet they're still out there playing some fantastic soccer. And I do think that they could be at least going to the championship game, if not winning it. Well, that's all for today, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in next week as we talk about more sports from your backyard to all across America. I'm Colin Casey alongside Patrick Varhue and Matt Rodalakis. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.